The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Goldman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm heartened that there's so much bipartisan agreement about the threat that Iran poses not only in the Middle East, but to the United States, and I do hope that we can continue to work together. Some of the rhetoric, though, coming from my colleagues across the aisle is a little disconcerting, I must say. My distinguished colleague from Florida tried to say that the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally was not anti-Semitic and filled with neo-Nazis using anti-Semitic slogans. The demonstrators chanted lines like, quote, "Jews will not replace us." They used slogans like blood and soil, which is a phrase drawn from Nazi ideology. One said, "This city is run by Jewish communists and criminal N-word." I will not say that. That was an anti-Semitic neo-Nazi rally that President Trump said there were good people on both sides. So let's not dispute the facts. Second, I want to point out in response I'm sorry, that was Mr. Bishop who said that. Mr. Jimenez was talking about how the issues we have on our border are purely policy issues. They are not funding issues. And that the Biden administration has done nothing to address policy. That is false. The problem the Biden administration has is that every policy change they make is subject to a lawsuit by Republicans. So the Republicans are trying to sabotage the Biden administration's efforts to fix the issues at the border and then bash the administration while they are doing that. That is not helpful. But what is, I think, helpful is what Ambassador Sales said, which when asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, when asked what the most important thing that the government can do, the Biden administration can do to stop the criminal organizations on the border was more funding. Is that right?
Funding and authority, sir. Funding,
okay. Well, it's interesting because in the supplemental recommendation by the administration, they include money to hire 1,000 additional CBP officers and resources for Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. That would be funding to combat transnational criminal organizations. Is that right, Ambassador Sales?
Having not reviewed the legislation, I'm reluctant to offer a view on it, but...
Well, you would agree that 1,000 more officers and additional resources for the investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security would be new funding and helpful to combat transnational criminal organizations on the border. Are you going to disagree with that?
That is certainly new funding, and I would also want them to have the full authorities to make use of those resources.
Right, so I understand, and I'm just quoting back what you said. It also asks for an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,000 agents that were funded in their fiscal year 2024 budget. There are also support for 300 new Border Patrol processing coordinators so that the Border Patrol agents can focus on their critical national security mission. The list goes on. The problem we have here is there are policies in place. The administration is trying to put more money in order to combat the transnational criminal organizations and the Mexican drug cartels. And my Republican colleagues oppose that. In fact, some of my Republican colleagues want to defund the FBI. Mr. Warrick, would defunding the FBI help combat transnational criminal organizations such as the cartels and the fentanyl problem that we have?
It would be a disaster of unimaginable proportions to defund the FBI.
It would. And I think it's important as we are attacking not only the terrorism exported by Iran around the world and our southern border, that we try to unify, as we have in our support for Israel, as we have in denouncing terrorism and Hamas, but also as we try to address the issues at the southern border. And instead, my Republican colleagues want to politicize this issue for their own benefit, and that is not constructive. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I do want to make a point, though, of clarification. There was significant new funding in H.R. 2 to include increasing the size of Border Patrol over a set number of years in excess of what was requested by the White House, increased technology license plate readers. So I will correct the gentleman on that.
So I hope you'll agree with the supplemental.